The desert was a living furnace by midday, the kind of heat that made a man feel like the sun was pressing a hand against the back of his neck. Ethan Cole rode through it anyway, his hat pulled low and his eyes narrowed against the shimmering horizon. He had lost 3 cattle in the storm last night, and cattle meant money he didn't have to spare. But as the canyon walls grew narrower and the wind stopped moving, he felt the wrongness settle on his shoulders like a weight. He shouldn't be here. Apache territory was harsh, steep, unpredictable, and the tribe that roamed these lands was known for warriors who could move through the rocks like mountain spirits. Ethan dismounted when he spotted a line of hoofprints leading between 2 towering slabs of red stone. He crouched to inspect them, dragging his fingers over the soft imprint in the dust. Steer, heavy, moving fast. He muttered a quiet curse and rose. That's when he heard it. A scrape of stone above him, heavy, intentional. He didn't reach for his revolver. Something told him that would be a mistake. Instead, he looked up slowly. A tall shadow broke free from the canyon's edge, and a shape dropped down with a speed that stole the breath from his chest. She landed in front of him like a falling boulder, dust spiraling around her feet. Ethan took a sharp step back. She was a woman, but not like any he'd ever seen. Taller than most men, broad-shouldered, with muscles carved from years of climbing cliffs and carrying weight no one else could. 2 thick black braids draped her chest, and her face was painted with sharp lines of red and white that accentuated her fierce amber eyes. She held a spear that was almost as tall as Ethan himself. "You are trespassing," she said in a low, deliberate voice that vibrated through the canyon. Ethan lifted both hands. "I'm just looking for my cattle. They wandered in during the storm." "You lie." Her spear's tip pressed just lightly against his shirt. Not enough to pierce flesh, but enough to make his pulse hammer. "I'm not lying," Ethan said calmly. "I don't want trouble." Her eyes narrowed. She studied every inch of him, the dust on his boots, the tension in his shoulders, the steadiness of his breath. Then she walked around him in a slow, predatory circle, the shadow of her height falling over him. Up close, he noticed things he hadn't before: faint scars on her arms, a bruise on her knuckles, calluses on her hands. Signs of battles fought, signs that she wasn't a woman to underestimate. "You ride alone?" she said behind him. "You carry little water. Your horse is tired." He swallowed. She wasn't guessing. She was reading him like a track in the dirt. "I meant no disrespect," Ethan said.
"If you want me gone,
I want something else." Her voice shifted, softer, but more dangerous than her spear. Ethan turned slowly. "What is it?" The Apache woman stepped closer until the shadow of her height blocked the sun. Her amber eyes locked into his with a frightening steadiness. "You are going to have sex with me." The canyon fell silent. Ethan blinked once, stunned enough that words didn't come for a moment. He wasn't naive. The frontier had its share of desperation, survival bargains, and odd custom. But no one, absolutely no one, had ever said something like that with such certainty, such command. He found his voice. "Ma'am, I think there's a misunderstanding." "There is none," she said sharply. But her eyes were not sharp. They were wounded beneath the steel. She stepped back, gripping her spear with tight fingers. "My tribe says no man will want me. I am too tall, too strong, too much a warrior to be a woman." The bitterness in her voice carved the canyon deeper. "They say I will grow old alone," she continued. "That no brave wants the mountain girl. That I am cursed with a giant's body." Ethan's chest tightened. He recognized the shame in her tone, the kind that came from a lifetime of whispers too loud to ignore. "My father has given me 1 moon," she said. 1 moon to prove a man will choose me." Her jaw clenched. "If I do not, he will give me away. To any warrior who wants a prize." Her voice cracked on the last word. For the first time, Ethan truly saw her, not as the towering figure blocking his path, but as a woman carved into strength by necessity, not desire. She took a step toward him, not threatening, pleading without lowering her dignity. "You looked at me without fear," she said. Other men flinch, or laugh. Ethan breathed in slowly. "Nalin," he said gently, remembering the name she'd spoken earlier. "You don't need to force someone." "I do not force," she snapped. But her eyes betrayed the tremor beneath her pride. "I ask, and you are free to run. But if you run, I am nothing again." The wind shifted, warm and restless. Ethan lowered his hands, watching her carefully. She wasn't trying to claim him. She was trying not to disappear in her own tribe's eyes. "Nalin," he said softly, "I'm not going to do something you don't really want, or something I don't understand." She stared at him, breathing hard. Lightning cracked behind the canyon ridge, illuminating her face and the strength, the vulnerability, the years of mockery that had shaped both. Finally, she whispered, "Then tell me, rancher, what am I supposed to do? I cannot be small. I cannot be soft. I cannot make myself the woman they want." Her voice fractured. "So I choose. I choose a man who does not shrink when I stand before him." Ethan stepped forward slowly so she wouldn't think he was afraid. He reached out and rested his hand on the spear shaft, lowering it gently. "You don't have to change who you are," he said. "And you don't have to earn your tribe's respect by giving away your pride." Nalin's breath hitched. For a heartbeat, just one, the canyon felt like a sacred place, as if the stones themselves were listening. Thunder rolled again. Closer now. The storm was coming fast. Nalin's eyes softened. Just a flicker, enough to show the girl beneath the warrior. "Ethan," she whispered, "what will you do?" He looked at her, really looked, at the fear she refused to speak, the strength she couldn't hide, and the strange, raw hope in her voice. What would he do? He didn't know yet, but he knew one thing. He would not leave her standing alone in that canyon. Not now. Not anymore. The storm's roar slowly faded into a steady rumble, like a giant pacing somewhere beyond the canyon walls. Inside the shallow cave, the flickering light from outside played across the stone ceiling, scattering reflections over Nalin's broad shoulders, her braids, the sharp lines of her face. She sat with her back against the rock, knees drawn up, her massive frame almost too large for the space. Ethan watched her, trying to read the mix of tension and vulnerability she kept trying to mask. For a long while they listened to the rhythm of the rain, trying to catch their breath after the collision of shock, pride, and desperation that had brought them here. Nalin's gaze remained fixed on the sheets of water, pouring down in front of the cave mouth, her expression tight with thought. Ethan knew she wasn't just thinking about her father, her tribe, or the humiliation she feared. She was thinking about the choice she almost forced on him, out of fear of losing all the choices she had left. "You are quiet," Ethan finally said. Nalin didn't turn. "I am thinking of how foolish I must seem to you." "Not foolish," he said. "Just tired of being cornered." Her jaw tightened. "I should not have spoken to you the way I did." He shook his head. "You spoke the way a person speaks when everyone's been ignoring their voice for too long." That made her look at him, really look. Her amber eyes softened, the fierce edge dimming. The storm outside cast long shadows across her face, but her gaze held the kind of light that could break through any darkness. "You talk differently from the men I know," she murmured. "Well," Ethan replied, "most of the men you know didn't just get jumped from a canyon wall by a woman twice their size." Her lips parted, just a small twitch at first, but then she let out a soft breath that might have been the ghost of a laugh. Her shoulders relaxed a little, and the tightness in the air loosened. The storm shifted, blowing in colder wind that made the cave walls groan. Ethan shrugged off his coat and gently tossed it over to her. "Here," he said. "You're closer to the entrance." She hesitated, as if unsure whether she should accept it. When she finally pulled the coat around her, she seemed smaller somehow, less like a towering warrior, and more like a young woman who'd lived too long under heavy expectations. "My father says a woman of my size should be grateful for any man willing to take her," she said quietly. "He says strength is useful, but only if a husband finds it pleasing." "And what do you think?" Ethan asked. "I think—" She stared at her hands, calloused and strong enough to crush bone. "I think strength is not a curse, but sometimes I feel like one." Ethan leaned forward. "You aren't a curse. You're a force. There's a difference." Nalin blinked hard, as if the words struck something deep inside her she hadn't expected anyone to touch. The cave fell silent again except for the slow drip of water hitting stone outside. "And you truly mean to stand beside me in my village tomorrow?" she eventually asked, voice barely above the rain. "Yes," he said simply. "You understand what that means?" She pressed. "My people will assume you claimed me. They will think I chose you. They will think They'll think whatever helps them accept you," he finished for her. She searched his face, trying to find deceit and finding none. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And this does not shame you?" "No," Ethan said. Standing beside you would never shame me. Nalin inhaled sharply, her throat working with an emotion she didn't have a name for. The stormlight flickered across her eyes, making them glisten. For a woman who had thrown herself into battle against warriors twice her number, the possibility of being wanted, even falsely, even for honor's sake, seemed to frighten her more than any danger. "You do not know what it is like," she said, voice trembling at the edges. "To be treated as something monstrous. Too big, too strong, too much." "No," Ethan admitted. "But I know what it's like to be judged before a person bothers to meet your eyes." She tilted her head, curiosity flickering. "What were you judged for?" "Being alone," he said with a faint smile. "In town, folks think a man who keeps to himself must be broken somehow, or dangerous, or hiding something. People don't like what they don't understand." Her gaze softened. "Then you and I, we are both misunderstood. Seems that way." A crack of thunder rolled across the mountains, but neither of them flinched. Something quiet had settled between them now, an understanding. A fragile thread binding two people who'd crashed into each other by accident and found a reflection they never expected. Nalin pulled Ethan's coat tighter around her. "When you stand beside me tomorrow," she said slowly, "they will believe we shared the night together." "I know. And your honor. Your people. They will think you lie down with an Apache woman." Ethan shrugged. "Then they'll have something interesting to gossip about." She stared at him, stunned by the ease of his answer. "And what if your heart is claimed by someone else?" she asked, as if searching for a reason to doubt him. "It's not," he said. "What if you regret this?" "I won't." The wind howled again, but inside the cave the air seemed to warm. Nalin lowered her head for a moment, breathing in slowly. Then, releasing a heavy weight she carried alone for years. "I believed no man would ever stand with me because he chose to," she whispered. "Only because he wanted my father's approval, or wanted to boast of conquering the giant woman." Ethan's voice was gentle. "I'm not here for your father, and I'm not here for boasting." "Then why?" she asked, barely audible. He met her gaze. "Because no one should face humiliation alone." She swallowed hard, her massive hands tightening around the coat. "When we return," she said, "I will walk tall beside you." "You already walk tall, Nalin," Ethan replied. "I'll just be keeping up." Her breath caught, this time not from fear, not from shame, but from something that might have been hope. She looked at him for a long time, searching, seeing more than she expected, more than she ever let herself imagine. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For treating me as a woman, not a burden." Outside, the storm began to fade, the rain thinning into a gentle mist. Dawn was still far off, but there was a new kind of light inside the cave. Warm, quiet, flickering not from the sky but from the two people sharing the shelter. Nalin leaned back against the rock wall, her eyes softer, her guard lowered for the first time in years. Ethan sat beside her, close enough to share warmth, far enough to show respect. Tomorrow they would walk into her village together. Tonight they simply existed in the same breath, the same stormlight. Two strangers who had chosen, without realizing it, to stop being strangers at all.